This blessing will be undeniably God, a shift that changes everything. The clock's screaming. It's 5 a.m. You're staring at a life that feels like a cage, bills piling up, dreams fading fast, and a mirror showing a man you barely know. But something's stirring. A spark. A whisper from deep within says this is your moment. Are you brave enough to claim it? If something in these words lights a fire in you, don't let it burn out. Hit that like button, drop your truth in the comments, and subscribe to SoulFuel for the kind of motivation that doesn't fade. Let's rise together. Let's begin. You're standing in the wreckage of your own story. Maybe it's a job you lost in Houston, leaving you with nothing but $462.17 in the bank. Maybe it's a business in Phoenix that crashed, costing you $85,000 and your pride. Or maybe it's just you, 37, 40, 45, waking up in a Denver apartment wondering when you stopped believing in yourself. You're not broken. You're on the edge of a blessing, a divine shift that can change everything. Napoleon Hill said, "Your greatest power is the power to control your mind." So what's in control right now? Fear or faith? One habit. One God-given, unshakable habit can rewrite your future. Are you ready to wield it? Picture this. A man in Memphis 39 stands in his backyard at dawn. The Tennessee air's heavy, the sky streaked with fire. He's got no job, no plan, just a pair of worn sneakers and a hunger to rise. He runs 1 mile slow, gasping sweat dripping like a prayer. He doesn't feel holy. He doesn't feel strong, but he moves anyway. Why? Because that run isn't just exercise. It's a blessing. A divine act of defiance against a world that tried to bury him. One habit, one step, one moment of faith that says, I'm still here. That's the power God's placed in you. The power to shift everything with one choice. Will you take it? Let's cut to the core. Life's been brutal. You felt the sting of failure, maybe a divorce in Miami that left you with $3,000 in alimony and a shattered heart. Maybe a startup in Austin that tanked, burning through $60,000 in your confidence. Or maybe it's the quiet ache of a life that feels too small, too heavy, too far from the man you know you could be. You're not here because you're weak. You're here because God's given you a spark, a blessing disguised as struggle. Napoleon Hill said, every adversity carries the seed of an equivalent advantage. Your adversity is your pain. Your habit is the seed. Plant it. Water it with discipline. Watch it grow into something undeniably God. Imagine a man in St. Louis 42 sitting at a diner counter at 4 a.m. The neon sign buzzes, the coffee's bitter. He's a truck driver working double shifts, barely scraping by on $6,000 a month. But he writes one sentence in a notebook, one goal for a future he can't yet see. His hand shakes, his eyes burn, but he keeps going. Why? Because that sentence isn't just words. It's a covenant. A promise to himself and to God that he's not done. One habit, one sentence, one blessing that shifts his life from surviving to thriving. That's not just discipline. That's divine. What's your covenant? Stoicism teaches us to own what we can control. You can't control the economy that gutted your savings. You can't control the boss who fired you. But you can control your response, your effort, your faith. Marcus Aurelius said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. That strength is your blessing. It's the habit you choose to honor, the one God's placed in your hands to rebuild your life. The top 1% don't have more talent. They have more faith, faith in their actions, faith in their purpose, faith in the divine spark that says, you were made for more. So act like it. Choose your habit, make it holy. Let's talk about faith. Not the soft Sunday morning kind. The gritty gut punch kind that gets you out of bed when your body screams for sleep. The kind that pushes you to lift weights in a freezing Boise garage at 5 a.m. when every rep feels like a prayer. The kind that makes you sit at a desk in Nashville writing one page of a business plan when your account's at $297.42. David Goggins said, faith is acting when you're scared to death. That's the faith of the top 1%. They don't wait for God to clear the path. They walk it one habit at a time, trusting the blessing will follow. Here's the raw truth: you don't need a miracle. You need to move. God's already given you the blessing, one habit, one choice, one divine shift that can change everything. Napoleon Hill said, your mind can conceive and believe it, and it will achieve it. The top 1% don't just believe in success. They build it brick by sacred brick through habits they treat like gifts from God. Picture a man in Cleveland, 36, standing in a library at 7 p.m. The room's quiet, the shelves towering. He's a laid-off welder studying one chapter of a coding book. His hands are calloused, his mind's tired, but he keeps going. Why? Because that chapter isn't just knowledge. It's a blessing, a divine opportunity to shift his life. What's your opportunity? Ask yourself what's stopping you. Be brutal. Is it the voice saying you're too old, too broke, too far gone? That voice is a lie from the pit. God didn't put you here to drift. He put you here to rise. Picture a man in Albuquerque, 40, standing in a desert lot at 6 a.m. The sun's rising, the air sharp with heat. He's got no degree, no connections, just a journal and a pen. He writes one truth: I am enough. That truth isn't just ink. It's a divine declaration, a refusal to let his past define him. One habit, one truth, one blessing that says God's not done with me. What's your truth? Let's get specific. You're in Charlotte, 38, staring at a life that feels like a dead-end street. Your purpose is to build a legacy for your kids, but your bank account's at $1,300 and the bills don't stop. So you start small. Every morning you pray for 5 minutes. Not for wealth, not for ease, for strength. You kneel in a quiet bedroom, the world's still dark, and ask God for the courage to keep going. That prayer isn't just words. It's a habit, a divine anchor that grounds you when life shakes you. The top 1% don't wait for answers. They act trusting God's blessing will light the way. So act, pray, run, write, pray. Run, build. Make your habits sacred. Failure's not your enemy, it's your altar. It's where you offer up your old self and build the new. Picture a man in San Antonio, 35, standing in a park at dawn. The Texas sky's burning orange, the grass damp with dew. His restaurant failed, costing him $50,000 and his confidence. But he walks 1 mile every morning, rain or shine. Why? Because that walk isn't just movement, it's worship, a divine act of faith in himself and in God's plan. Napoleon Hill said, "Every failure carries the seed of an equivalent success." Your failure is your seed. Your habit is how you plant it, so plant it. Walk, work, believe. Let God's blessing unfold. The top 1% don't win because they're fearless. They win because they're faithful. Faithful to their habits, faithful to their purpose, faithful to the divine spark God's placed in them. David Goggins said, "When you're in hell, keep going. That's where God shows up." You're in hell right now. Bills, regrets, doubts piling up like a storm. But God's there in the habit you choose, in the discipline you build. Imagine a man in Baltimore, 43, sitting in a community center at 8 p.m. He's a single dad scraping by on $4,000 a month. But he teaches one kid one math lesson one night at a time. That lesson isn't just numbers, it's a blessing. A divine shift that says, I'm still giving. What's your gift? Here's the deal. God's blessing isn't a handout, it's a call to action. Stoicism says focus on what you can control: your effort, your choices, your faith. Napoleon Hill says your thoughts shape your reality. Combine those and you've got a divine blueprint. One habit backed by faith can shift your life from chaos to clarity. The top 1% don't wait for God to move the mountain. They climb it one step at a time, trusting the blessing will meet them at the top. So climb. Choose your habit. Make it holy. Whether it's running through the streets of Pittsburgh at dawn, writing one goal in a Tulsa notebook, or lifting one weight in a Miami garage, that habit is your prayer. It's your proof that God's not done with you. Your life's waiting for you to claim it. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Now. The blessing is here in the habit you choose, in the discipline you build, in the faith you act on. Napoleon Hill said effort only releases its reward after you refuse to quit. So don't quit. Show up. Make your habit a sacred act. Let it be the shift that changes everything. Undeniably God. The dawn's breaking. It's 5 a.m. in Kansas City and the world's still dark, the air sharp with Midwest chill. Your body's heavy, your mind screaming for the comfort of the sheets. But you don't listen. You rise. You move. Why? Because you're done letting weakness write your story. One habit, one sacred God-given habit is your hammer. It smashes doubt, it builds faith. It's the divine shift that carves a new path. Napoleon Hill said discipline is the bridge between thought and reality. So what's your bridge? Will you cross it? Or will you let fear hold you back? Discipline isn't a chore, it's a holy act. It's the moment you choose faith over fear, action over excuses. Picture a man in Louisville 41 standing in a garage at 4:30 a.m. The fluorescent light flickers the concrete floor cold under his boots. He's got no job, just a stack of bills, $3,246.87, and a dream to start a carpentry business. He sands one piece of wood. One cut, one stroke, one step toward something bigger. That's not just woodworking, that's worship. A divine commitment to the man he's becoming. One habit, one act, one blessing that shifts everything. What's your holy act? Let's get raw. Your life's a battlefield. Every day it's you against the voices that say you're not enough. The doubts that creep in at midnight whispering you're too old, too broke, too broken. The fears that tell you to play small, to wait for a sign. That's not God's voice. That's the enemy, and the weapon to silence it. Discipline. Napoleon Hill said, "Control your mind and you control your destiny." The top 1% don't wait for miracles. They build them one disciplined habit at a time. They don't negotiate with their demons, they crush them with action. So what's your action? What's the habit you'll make sacred to claim God's blessing? Imagine a man in Raleigh 36 sitting at a kitchen table at 10 p.m. The house is quiet, the kid's asleep, his bank account at $194.22. He's a laid-off mechanic with no prospects but a fire in his gut. He studies one page of an auto repair manual, one skill to rebuild his future. His eyes burn, his coffee's cold, but he keeps going. Why? Because that page isn't just knowledge. It's a divine promise. A promise to himself and to God that he's not done. One habit, one page, one shift that says I'm still in the fight. That's the blessing. That's the power you're holding. Will you use it? Discipline is your altar. It's where you offer up your excuses and build your faith. David Goggins said, "The only way to grow is to embrace the pain." That pain is real. It's the ache in your legs when you run through a Chicago snowstorm at 5 a.m. It's the burn in your chest when you write one business pitch at midnight in a Seattle diner, knowing rejection's likely. It's the weight of failure, $6,000 in debt, a lost job in Dallas that tries to bury you. The top 1% don't run from that pain. They lean into it. They know it's God's forge shaping them through discipline. So lean in. Pick your habit. Make it your prayer. Stoicism gives us the map. Marcus Aurelius said, "What need is there to weep over parts of life? The whole of it calls for tears." You can't control the layoff that cost you your savings. You can't control the market that tanked your business, but you can control your response, your discipline, your faith. Picture a man in Tucson 39 standing in a desert lot at 6 a.m. The Arizona sun's rising, the air thick with heat. He's a failed entrepreneur, his last venture costing him $75,000. But he runs 1 mile, lungs screaming, sweat stinging his eyes. Why? Because that run is his offering, a sacred habit that says, "God, I'm still here." What's your offering? Let's talk resistance. It's the knot in your stomach when the alarm blares at 4 a.m. It's the urge to scroll your phone instead of working on your dream. It's the voice that says you've failed before, so why try again? That's not just resistance, that's the test. God's blessing doesn't come easy, it comes through effort. David Goggins said, "You don't get better on the couch. You get better in the grind." The grind is where the top 1% live. They don't wait for the storm to pass. They build their habit in the rain, in the chaos, in the moments when it's easiest to quit. So grind. Choose your habit. Make it holy. Let it be the shift that changes everything. Imagine this. A man in Milwaukee 37 sitting in a community center at 7 p.m. The fluorescent lights hum, the chairs creak. He's a single dad working 2 jobs, barely clearing $4,000 a month. But he's there coaching one kid through a basketball drill. One pass, one shot, one lesson. Why? Because that drill isn't just sport. It's a divine act. A habit that proves he's more than his paycheck, more than his pain. It's his way of giving back, of showing God he's still fighting. One habit, one night, one blessing that shifts his life from surviving to serving. What's your service? Your brain's wired for patterns. Every time you skip your habit, you feed the old you, the one who doubts, who quits, who settles. Every time you show up, you feed the new you, the one God's calling to rise. Napoleon Hill said, "Your habits shape your future." The top 1% know this. They don't just act, they act with divine intention. Picture a man in Birmingham, Alabama, 40, standing in a garage at 5 a.m. The air's thick with oil, the tools rusted. He's a laid-off welder with $2,800 in debt, but he builds one model ship one piece at a time. That ship isn't just a hobby, it's a sacred habit, a divine shift toward a future he's crafting. What's your craft? Discipline isn't punishment, it's liberation. It's the freedom to own your time, your focus, your faith. Stoicism says master what you can control: your effort, your choices, your will. Hill says your thoughts become your reality. Combine those and you've got a divine formula. One habit backed by faith becomes God's blessing in action. Picture a man in Omaha, 35, sitting at a coffee shop at 6 a.m. The room smells of burnt espresso, the table's worn. He's a failed musician driving trucks for $5,000 a month, but he writes one lyric, one line for a song he'll never play. Why? Because that lyric is his prayer, a sacred habit that keeps his soul alive. What's your prayer? Let's talk failure. You've been there. The business that crashed in San Diego, costing you $60,000 in your dreams. The job you lost in Baltimore, leaving you with $300 and a stack of rejections. The marriage that broke in Miami with alimony payments of $2,000 a month. Failure's not the end. It's the altar where God's blessing begins. Napoleon Hill said every failure is a stepping stone to success. Your habit is that stone. It's how you turn pain into power, loss into legacy. Picture a man in Des Moines, 42, standing in a park at dawn. The Iowa sky's gold, the air crisp. He walks 1 mile every morning. That walk isn't just exercise, it's a divine act. A habit that says, God, I'm not done. What's your act? The top 1% don't win because they're lucky. They win because they're relentless. They treat their habits like sacred vows, like blessings from God they refuse to waste. David Goggins said the mind quits before the body ever does. Don't let your mind win. Fight back. Pick up the pen, the weight, the running shoes. Make your habit your rebellion. Imagine a man in Anchorage, 38, standing on a dock at 4 a.m. The Alaskan air's freezing, the water black. He's out of work with $1,500 in savings, but he reads one page of a leadership book, one idea to rebuild his life. That page isn't just knowledge, it's a divine shift, a habit that proves he's still in the game. What's your game? Here's the truth. God's blessing isn't a free pass, it's a call to fight. The top 1% don't wait for ease, they build through effort. They know discipline is the bridge to their destiny. Picture a man in Pittsburgh, 36, sitting in a library at 8 p.m. The shelves loom, the silence heavy. He's a laid-off steelworker with $400 in the bank, but he studies one chapter of a finance book, one step toward a new career. That chapter isn't just learning. It's a sacred habit, a divine act of faith in God's plan for him. One habit, one choice, one shift that changes everything. That's the blessing you're holding. Claim it. Your life's waiting for you to act. Not tomorrow, not next week, now. God's given you the spark, one habit, one divine opportunity to shift your story. Napoleon Hill said strength grows through struggle. Your struggle is your empty wallet, your sleepless nights, your broken dreams. Your strength is your habit. Make it sacred. Protect it like a gift from God. Whether it's running through the streets of Nashville at dawn, writing one goal in a Charlotte notebook, or lifting one weight in a Tucson garage, that habit is your bridge to a life undeniably God. Build it. Cross it. Don't look back. The sun's rising. It's 5 a.m. in Charleston, and the South Carolina air hums with salt and promise. You're awake, standing at the edge of your life, heart pounding with a truth you can't ignore. God's placed a blessing in you, a spark, a purpose, a shift that can change everything. But it's not free. It demands your fight. Your purpose isn't a wish, it's a fire. And one habit, one sacred God-given habit, is the fuel to make it burn. Napoleon Hill said, "A definite purpose backed by faith is the power that moves mountains." So what's your mountain? What's the purpose you'll bleed for? Find it, fight for it, make it undeniably God. Purpose isn't soft, It's steel. It's the reason you rise when the world says stay down. Picture a man in Boise 43 standing in a snowy park at 6 a.m. The Idaho wind bites his breath clouds in the cold. He's a widower raising 3 kids scraping by on $4,000 a month. But he writes one letter to his children, one promise to be their rock. Every morning he pens one line, "I'll never quit." That letter isn't just words. It's a divine vow, a purpose that anchors his soul. One habit, one line, one shift that says God's with me and I'm still standing. What's your vow? Let's get raw. You're not here to drift. You're here to dominate. But domination starts with clarity. Without purpose, your habit's just a task, a fleeting effort. With purpose, it's a sacred act, a blessing from God that reshapes your life. Stoicism teaches us to master what we control: our actions, our will, our faith. Marcus Aurelius said your purpose is to act well in the moment before you. That moment is now. Your purpose isn't out there waiting to be found. It's in you, waiting to be forged. Forge it with one habit that screams, "This is who I am." So what's your scream? What's the purpose that makes you unstoppable? Imagine a man in Albuquerque 37 standing in a desert lot at dawn. The New Mexico skies ablaze, the air sharp with heat. He's a failed contractor, his last job costing him $60,000 and his confidence. But he builds one model home, one sketch on a napkin. Every night he draws one line, one room, one dream. That sketch isn't just a plan, it's purpose. A divine calling to rebuild not just houses, but himself. One habit, one line, one blessing that shifts his life from ashes to action. That's the power God's given you. Will you wield it? Purpose is your fire. It's what pulls you through the dark. David Goggins said, "Your why is what keeps you going when you're in hell." And you've been in hell. The divorce in Atlanta that left you with $2,000 in alimony and a broken spirit. The business in Seattle that crashed, burning through $75,000 in your dreams. The nights in a Cleveland apartment staring at a ceiling wondering why you're still here. You're here because God's not done with you. Your purpose is His blessing, and your habit is how you claim it. So claim it. Tie your habit to your why. Let it burn through the pain. Picture a man in Savannah 40 sitting in a diner at 4 a.m. The neon sign flickers, the coffee's stale. He's a laid-off chef with $346 in the bank. But he cooks one recipe, one dish for a food truck he doesn't own yet. Every night he perfects one sauce, one flavor, one step toward his purpose. That dish isn't just food, it's faith. A divine habit that says, "God, I'm still creating." One habit, one recipe, one shift that changes everything. That's not just cooking, that's resurrection. What's your resurrection purpose? Doesn't make life easy. It makes you tough. Imagine a man in Des Moines, 36, standing on a rooftop at sunset. The Iowa sky's gold, the wind carrying his past, failed startup, $5,000 in debt, a family to feed. But he runs 1 mile every morning, rain or shine. Why? Because his purpose is to be the father his kids deserve, the man God called him to be. That run isn't just exercise, it's a sacred act. A habit that proves he's stronger than his setbacks. One habit, 1 mile, one blessing that shifts his life from surviving to thriving. What's your purpose? Here's a story. In Birmingham, Alabama, a man named Caleb, 42, hit rock bottom. His auto shop folded, costing him $80,000 and his pride. He moved into a 1-bedroom apartment, his life packed into cardboard. But Caleb found his purpose to rebuild not just cars, but lives. He started small. Every morning he mentored one teenager at a community center, one lesson on fixing engines, 1 hour of giving back. That hour wasn't just teaching, it was his anchor, his divine habit that proved he was more than his failures. 6 months later, Caleb opened a small garage, hiring 2 kids he'd mentored. Not because he was lucky, but because he was relentless. One habit, one lesson, one purpose that changed everything. Purpose isn't about fame. It's about meaning. It's about waking up knowing why you're fighting. Maybe it's to be the husband your wife believes in. Maybe it's to build a business that proves you're not done. Maybe it's to run a marathon that shows you're stronger than your past. The top 1% don't chase glory. They chase alignment where their habits match their purpose. Napoleon Hill said, "A burning desire backed by faith achieves the impossible." Your habit is that faith in action. It's the divine blessing God's given you to turn desire into destiny. So make it real. Tie your habit to your purpose. Let it be undeniably God. Let's get practical. You're in Tulsa 39 staring at a life that feels like a dead-end road. Your purpose to build a legacy for your family. So you start small. Every night you save $10. You skip the bar, the takeout, the new phone. You put that 10 in a jar. That jar isn't just money, it's purpose. A divine habit that says I'm building for tomorrow. One habit, one choice, one shift toward a life you own. The top 1% don't wait for permission. They act trusting God's blessing will follow. So act, save, run, write. Make your habit your prayer. The world will test you. Your purpose will be challenged. The alarm will scream at 5 a.m. and your body will beg for sleep. The bills will stack $2,000, $3,000, and your doubts will roar. That's the crucible. That's where God's blessing is forged. David Goggins said, "Your purpose is what pulls you through when you're at your lowest. So hold it tight. Let it burn through the chaos." The top 1% don't win because life's kind. They win because their purpose is iron, their habits sacred. They don't break. They build. So build. Anchor your habit to your purpose. Let it carry you. Picture this. A man in Raleigh 35 standing in a park at dawn. The North Carolina airs crisp the grass wet with dew. He's a single dad working 2 jobs, barely clearing $5,000 a month. But he journals one page, one truth about who he's becoming. That page isn't just ink, it's purpose. A divine habit that proves he's not drifting anymore. He's building. One habit, one truth, one shift that changes everything. That's your future. Not a fantasy, a reality you create starting now. Here's how you make it happen. First, define your purpose. Ask, what do I want so badly I'd fight through hell for it? Write it down. Make it clear. Second, choose one habit. Small, sacred, tied to your purpose. Maybe it's running 1 mile in a Miami rainstorm. Maybe it's reading 10 pages in a Pittsburgh library. Maybe it's praying 5 minutes in a Boise bedroom. Third, make it non-negotiable. No excuses. Do it when it hurts, when you're tired, when the world says quit. Fourth, track it. Mark a calendar, stack a jar, build a chain you won't break. Fifth, protect it. Guard your habit like a gift from God. Sixth, reflect weekly. Ask, is this moving me closer to my purpose? Adjust, but never stop. Seventh, pray. Connect your habit to your faith. Trusting God's blessing will unfold. That's the path. That's how you make this shift, undeniably God. You're not here to wait. You're here to rise. Your purpose is God's fire. Your habit is His fuel. Tie them together and nothing can stop you. Not fear, not failure, not time. Napoleon Hill said, whatever you can conceive and believe you can achieve. Believe in your purpose. Act on your habit. Become the man God made you to be. If you felt something shift while listening, don't ignore it. Like the video, leave your voice in the comments, and subscribe to SoulFuel, where courage is sparked and the life you deserve takes shape.